They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But what if I told you that my revenge was worth exactly $10 million? My name is Alex, and 3 years ago, I was just another employee at TechFlow Industries, working in their innovation department. I had what I believed was a revolutionary idea, an AI-powered customer service system that could predict client needs before they even knew they had them. But my boss, Marcus Sterling, looked me straight in the eye and said the words that would change everything: "This is garbage, Alex. You're living in a fantasy world." Little did he know, he was about to make the biggest mistake of his career. And I was about to become his worst nightmare. Let me take you back to where it all began. It was a rainy Tuesday morning in March when inspiration struck like lightning. I was analyzing customer complaints for the 100th time when I noticed something peculiar: patterns that no one else seemed to see. Customers weren't just randomly complaining, there was a predictable sequence to their frustrations. What if we could intercept these patterns before they escalated? The idea consumed me for weeks. I worked 18-hour days, skipped meals, ignored my girlfriend's calls. I was building something that could revolutionize customer service forever. But I had no idea that my dedication would soon become the very weapon used against me. The prototype was ready. 3 months of blood, sweat, and sleepless nights had culminated in something beautiful: a system that could predict customer issues with 89% accuracy. I remember the exact moment I scheduled the meeting with Marcus. My hands were trembling as I typed the email: "Revolutionary customer service innovation, urgent review required." I thought I was about to become the company's golden boy. I imagined bonuses, promotions, maybe even a partnership. But sometimes, the universe has different plans. Sometimes, your biggest breakthrough becomes your greatest downfall. And sometimes, the person you trust most becomes your biggest enemy. Marcus Sterling was everything I aspired to be: confident, successful, commanding respect from everyone in the building. He'd built his reputation on spotting winning ideas and turning them into gold mines. His office walls were covered with awards and photos of him shaking hands with industry leaders. When I walked into his corner office that Wednesday morning, I genuinely believed I was about to change both our lives forever. The morning sun was streaming through his floor-to-ceiling windows, and I took it as a good omen. "Marcus," I said, setting up my laptop, "what I'm about to show you will transform our entire customer service division." But the look in his eyes should have warned me that this meeting wouldn't go as planned. I presented my heart and soul for exactly 47 minutes. Every slide was perfect, every statistic verified, every projection conservative. The AI system I'd developed could reduce customer complaints by 78%, increase satisfaction scores by 45%, and save the company approximately $2.3 million annually. Marcus sat there, stone-faced, occasionally tapping his Mont Blanc pen against his leather desk pad. When I finished, the silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then he leaned back in his chair and delivered the words that would haunt me: "Alex, this is the most naive presentation I've ever seen. You're wasting company time on science fiction." But he wasn't done destroying me yet. "Let me explain something to you about the real world," Marcus continued, his voice dripping with condescension. "Customers don't want AI predicting their problems. They want human connection. Your little robot fantasy might work in Silicon Valley fairy tales, but not in serious business." Each word felt like a knife to my chest. 3 months of work dismissed in 30 seconds. But then came the blow that changed everything: "I'm recommending your immediate termination. This company needs innovators, not dreamers living in La La Land." I sat there, stunned, watching my career crumble. But what Marcus didn't know was that he'd just lit a fire inside me that would burn down everything he'd built. 24 hours later, I was cleaning out my desk while my former colleagues avoided eye contact. The humiliation was suffocating. Word had spread that Marcus Sterling himself had deemed my project worthless garbage. My girlfriend Sarah found me that evening, sitting in the dark, staring at my laptop screen. "What are you doing?" she asked gently. I looked up at her with eyes filled with determination that surprised even me. "I'm about to prove that Marcus Sterling is the biggest fool in this industry." She didn't understand it then, but I was about to embark on a journey that would either vindicate me completely or destroy me forever. There was no middle ground. The next morning, I did something that terrified me. I reached out to David Chen, CEO of Innovate Tech Solutions, TechFlow's biggest competitor. David had a reputation for being ruthless but fair, and more importantly, he had a track record of turning rejected ideas into gold mines. My hands shook as I typed the email. I have something that will give you a decisive advantage over TechFlow Industries. Within 2 hours, David replied with a single line, tomorrow, 10 a.m., my office. Bring everything. I stared at that message, knowing I was about to cross a line I could never uncross. But Marcus had pushed me past the point of no return. David Chen's office was nothing like Marcus's pretentious display of wealth. It was minimalist, functional, with whiteboards covered in complex algorithms and business strategies. David himself was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with intense eyes that seemed to analyze everything. Show me what TechFlow was too stupid to appreciate, he said without preamble. This time, my presentation was different. It wasn't just technical specifications and statistics. It was personal. It was passionate. It was the culmination of everything I'd learned about innovation, rejection, and the power of believing in something when nobody else does. David listened without interrupting for 68 minutes. Then he smiled, and I knew my life was about to change forever. This is exactly what we've been looking for, David said, leaning forward. But I need to know, are you absolutely certain this works? I pulled out my phone and showed him the secret testing I'd done using public customer service databases. Real data, real results, real proof that my system could predict and prevent customer issues with unprecedented accuracy. David's eyes widened as he saw the numbers. If this is accurate, you're not just offering us a competitive advantage. You're offering us market domination. The room fell silent as the magnitude of what we were discussing sank in. This wasn't just about a job anymore. This was about revenge, vindication, and changing an entire industry. 3 weeks later, I signed the most important contract of my life. Innovate Tech didn't just want to buy my system, they wanted to make me their chief innovation officer with a salary that made my TechFlow paycheck look like pocket change. But more importantly, they gave me something Marcus never did, complete creative control and unlimited resources. I want you to build a team, David told me. Hire the best people, buy the best equipment, and show the world what happens when someone actually believes in revolutionary ideas. As I walked out of that meeting, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months, hope mixed with anticipation for the sweet taste of vindication. Building the team was like assembling a group of fellow outcasts who'd been underestimated by the corporate world. There was Jennifer, a brilliant programmer who'd been passed over for promotion 7 times at her previous company. Mark, a data scientist whose ideas were deemed too advanced by his former employers. And Lisa, a user experience designer who'd quit her job after being told that innovation doesn't come from the design department. Together, we weren't just building a customer service system. We were building a movement. Every line of code was written with the memory of rejection. Every algorithm was designed with the fuel of proving everyone wrong. 6 months after my termination, Innovate Tech launched PredictCare, the AI system that Marcus had called worthless garbage. The launch event was held at the city's premier convention center, with over 500 industry leaders in attendance. As I stood on that stage, looking out at the audience, I spotted a familiar face in the crowd. Marcus Sterling sat in the 3rd row, his expression unreadable. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and I smiled. He had no idea what was coming. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, today we're not just launching a product. We're redefining what customer service means in the digital age. The demonstration that followed left the audience speechless. The numbers spoke louder than any speech ever could. Live, in front of 500 industry professionals, PredictCare analyzed real customer data from 3 different companies and predicted potential issues with 94% accuracy, even better than my original prototype. But the real shock came when David announced the beta test results. In just 60 days of testing, our partner companies saw customer complaints drop by 82%, satisfaction scores increase by 53%, and operational costs decrease by $1.2 million. The audience erupted in applause, but I was focused on Marcus. His face had gone pale, and I could see him frantically typing on his phone. He was finally understanding the magnitude of his mistake. Within 24 hours of the launch, my phone was ringing non-stop. Major corporations wanted to license PredictCare. Tech blogs were calling it the future of customer service. But the call that mattered most came at 11:47 p.m. It was Marcus. Alex, his voice was different now, desperate, defeated. "We need to talk." I let the silence stretch before responding. "Actually, Marcus, we don't. You made it very clear that my ideas were worthless garbage. I hope you're enjoying watching your competition dominate the market with that same garbage." I hung up, but I knew this was just the beginning of his nightmare. The real shock was still coming. 3 months after launch, David called me into his office with news that exceeded my wildest dreams. "Alex, I need you to sit down for this," he said, barely containing his excitement. "We just signed the biggest licensing deal in company history. 12 major corporations want to implement PredictCare across their entire customer service operations." He slid a contract across his desk, and when I saw the number, my heart nearly stopped. The deal was worth $47 million over 3 years, with projected profits reaching $10 million in the first year alone. But the sweetest part wasn't the money, it was seeing TechFlow's stock price plummet as investors realized they'd let revolutionary technology slip through their fingers. The industry publications couldn't stop talking about Innovate Tech's meteoric rise and TechFlow's corresponding decline. How TechFlow lost the AI revolution. Read the headline in Tech Weekly. The article detailed how a former TechFlow employee had developed groundbreaking technology that their management had foolishly rejected. Marcus Sterling's name appeared 17 times in that article, each mention highlighting another strategic failure. But the most satisfying moment came when I received a LinkedIn message from my former colleague, "James, dude, Marcus just got demoted. The board is furious about losing you in your project. They're calling it the costliest mistake in company history." Sweet, sweet vindication. A year after my termination, I stood in my new corner office, bigger than Marcus's had ever been, overlooking the city skyline. Innovate Tech had just been named Company of the Year by Innovation Quarterly, largely due to PredictCare's success. My personal net worth had increased by 847% in 12 months. But money wasn't the real victory. The real victory was the email I received that morning from TechFlow's new CEO, "Mr. Alex, we would like to discuss acquiring licensing rights to PredictCare technology. We understand you might have reservations given your previous experience with our company, but we hope you'll consider our proposal." I printed that email and framed it. Sometimes the universe has a beautiful sense of irony. The final chapter of the story came exactly 18 months after Marcus had fired me. I was invited to speak at the National Customer Service Innovation Summit, the same conference where Marcus had been the keynote speaker for 3 consecutive years. As I walked onto that stage, I saw him in the audience, no longer the confident executive but a man whose career had been defined by one catastrophic mistake. 3 years ago, I began, someone told me that innovation was just a fairy tale, that my ideas were worthless garbage. Today, that garbage has generated over $10 million in profits and revolutionized how hundreds of companies serve their customers. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Today, PredictCare technology serves over 200 companies worldwide, saving them millions of dollars and improving millions of customer experiences. Marcus Sterling left TechFlow 6 months ago, not by choice. His LinkedIn profile says he's exploring new opportunities, which everyone knows is corporate speak for unemployable after making the biggest mistake in business history. But this story isn't really about revenge. It's about what happens when you believe in your vision even when everyone else calls you crazy. It's about turning rejection into rocket fuel. And it's proof that sometimes, the best thing your enemy can do is underestimate you. Because while they're busy dismissing your dreams, you're busy building the empire that will make them irrelevant. Now, let me share something with you that goes far beyond this story of corporate revenge. What you just heard isn't just about one man's journey from rejection to success, it's a mirror reflecting challenges that every single one of us faces in our daily lives. How many times have you had a brilliant idea, only to have someone dismiss it as unrealistic or impossible? How many times have you been told to be more practical when your heart was screaming to pursue something extraordinary? Think about that presentation you've been postponing because you're afraid your boss won't understand. Think about that business idea you've been sketching in notebooks but never shared because you're terrified of judgment. Think about that creative project you abandoned because someone called it silly. Every day, we face our own Marcus Sterlings, people who are so trapped in their limited thinking that they can't recognize brilliance when it's standing right in front of them. But here's what I learned from this journey, and what I want you to remember forever: rejection is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their limitations. When someone dismisses your dreams, they're revealing more about their own fears and insecurities than about the validity of your vision. The same idea that one person calls garbage might be exactly what another person recognizes as genius. Every rejection you face is actually a redirection toward the right opportunity. Every no is clearing the path for the perfect yes. Every person who underestimates you is unknowingly giving you the greatest gift possible, the motivation to prove them wrong. Marcus didn't just fire an employee that day, he fired up a competitor who would ultimately destroy everything he'd built. In your own life, start viewing doubters as fuel instead of obstacles. When someone tells you that your dreams are too big, smile and say thank you for the motivation. When someone says your ideas won't work, remember that they said the same thing about every innovation that changed the world. The airplane was called impossible. The internet was dismissed as a fad. Social media was considered a waste of time. Stop seeking permission from people who lack your vision. Stop asking for approval from individuals who are terrified of change. Start surrounding yourself with people who see possibilities instead of problems, who ask how can we make this work, instead of why won't this work. But most importantly, never let someone else's limited imagination limit your unlimited potential. Your dreams deserve better than to be buried under someone else's fears. Your ideas deserve better than to be dismissed by someone who's never had an original thought in their life. If you've made it this far, you're already different from 95% of people. You're someone who believes in the power of persistence, vision, and the sweet taste of proving doubters wrong. You're someone who understands that today's rejection can become tomorrow's revolution. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying with me through this entire journey. In a world where attention is the most valuable currency, you've given me the most precious gift possible, your time. That tells me something important about you: you're not just a dreamer, you're a doer. You're not just someone who wants success, you're someone willing to learn from others who've walked this path before you. But here's what I need you to do right now, and this is crucial. If this story inspired you, if it gave you even one moment of "I can relate to this" or "I needed to hear this today," then I need you to hit that subscribe button immediately. Because content like this doesn't happen by accident. It takes research, passion, and countless hours to bring you these real stories of triumph over adversity. More importantly, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. We all know someone who's sitting on a brilliant idea but afraid to pursue it. We all know someone who's been rejected and feels like giving up. We all know someone who's been underestimated and needs to remember their power. Send them this video. Share it on your social media. Make it go viral. Because every person who hears this story might be the next person who decides to turn their rejection into their comeback. Your engagement, your likes, your comments, your shares, that's what allows me to keep creating content that challenges the status quo and inspires people to believe in themselves again. So don't just be a passive consumer. Be an active participant in spreading these messages of hope and determination. And finally, I want you to remember this: your Marcus Sterling moment is coming. Maybe it already happened. Maybe it's happening right now. But when it does, I want you to remember Alex's story. I want you to remember that every ending is actually a beginning. Every rejection is actually a redirection. And every person who underestimates you is actually giving you your greatest opportunity. Now go out there and build something so incredible that your doubters have no choice but to become your biggest advocates. Because the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's success so undeniable that it speaks for itself. Thank you for watching, thank you for believing, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore another story of triumph against all odds. Until then, keep dreaming, keep building, and never let anyone convince you that your vision is too big for this world.